Welcome to another episode of the Coaching Collective podcast, the community for coaches by coaches. Now here are your hosts, Ed Hamilton and Paul Blackford.
Oh, that would be fun. Wow, okay. That would be an absolute
That would be a
clusterfuck.
absolute clusterfuck. But it would be fun.
Yeah, it would.
Anyway, what we're going to do today is something a little different. We're going to do a little Q&A style.
So we started this by throwing out to the community and the greater world via socials. But if any of you guys are interested in a topic and hearing us speak specifically about a topic, we're interested in what you're interested in. So throw it out to the community, throw it out to the socials, just flick us a message. And yeah, we'd love to hear from you about anything you want to cover. But we did get a response to our question, what would you like us to talk about, or any topics, etc. This one was from Chris Kessel from ARC Health and Fitness. And Chris has been fairly active in the community as well, which is great to see. Little bits and pieces. And the topic that he brought up was from you've got it there, Eddie. Maybe you read. Yeah.
It says, this question was put to a few of us at a recent workshop.
Oh, that's right.
If you were only able to train with one piece of equipment for the rest of your life, what would it be and why?
Ooh, we almost said the same thing today in the gym.
We did say the same thing.
Almost at the same time, though.
I was waiting to hear your response.
Oh, okay. Well,
because then I was going to slam you for saying the wrong thing.
And the answer is obviously dumbbell.
There's only one answer.
However, I've had some subsequent thoughts. But let's go. You start with dumbbell and why.
You want to go my opinion. Why would I choose dumbbell or dumbbells? And I'm assuming that I'm allowed any weight.
Oh, see, that's a big assumption. I'll talk. I'll talk to the counter of that. But you go. You go.
I can have whatever dumbbell that I want.
Yeah.
I can have two dumbbells. Yeah. Right, cool. For me.
What are the rules, Chris?
Yeah. What are the rules, Chris? I think when I think about the idea of specific variability, I can do a lot more with a dumbbell.
Mm-hmm.
So it's going to allow for unilateral loading. It's going to allow for, like I said, specific variability of an exercise. So if I wanted to take, for example, like a rear foot elevated split squat, not only can I do it ipsilaterally, so loading on the same side, same leg, I can do it contralaterally, I could do it dual dumbbell. So I'm just going to have more variety in my training without needing to change exercises a ton. Yeah, you're going to be able to obviously work on unilateral stuff, but again, if I've got the spectrum of as heavy dumbbells that I want, I'm still going to be able to push top end weights, and then I can also bring loading back down. I think with that as well, that I'm going to be able to have more use of like secondary and tertiary benefits around like additional stability through the dumbbell or added instability. So it's going to be training that sort of section as well that I'm able to use. Whereas like a barbell, I'm not going to be getting that. I know it could be like in relation to any piece of equipment, but if you're going to relate that certain point of can I still train top end strength? It's yes, I can still train top end strength on a dumbbell. There's 40 kilo dumbbells at the gym, and if I tried to lift them, I'd probably do 2 or 3. So it's just no different to me doing like a heavy block of barbell benching. I can still get that stimulus from the dumbbells. I think versatility wise, like I'm like a kettlebell. If you're going to argue with that, you can snatch, you can swing a dumbbell, you can clean and jerk, you can do power training with them, you can do anything. If I have heavy enough dumbbells, like the only other maybe topic would be like axial loading. If I get to 70 kilo dumbbells and I rack them up on my shoulders, like that squat's going to fucking load my spine, and I'm going to be able to utilize that with that piece of equipment as well. So my initial thought, but I'd love to hear other opinions and reasons why maybe the dumbbell is not the best and why another piece of equipment, but my brain goes directly to that. Just in its versatility, I can train so many bits and pieces with it, and yeah, I can manipulate the same exercise more so than I could manipulate the same exercise with a barbell. And I'm going to get the same out of the ability to do it with kettlebells, but the kettlebells are going to have more instability, more challenging positions for me to probably hit that top end. Like trying to bench, just as an example, as I used it with the dumbbell, like trying to bench two 32-kilo kettlebells would
It's
be
a
really hard.
different
Yeah, it's so different.
kettle
in
of
regards-
fish.
Yeah, so I think I would be limited in my ability to express top end strength in certain movements with kettlebells.
Mm.
Whereas on dumbbells, I feel like just being slightly more stable but still having that versatility, I can use them.
Mm.
And then, yeah, you can pretty much do.
I think versatility, yeah. So that was a really good coach's answer. Well done.
Thanks, man. So if you see people doing lots of dumbbell stuff with my clients, it's probably why they do lots of dumbbell stuff.
You can do lots with dumbbells. So I knew you were going to answer dumbbells because we already spoke about it. But I thought, what would be another cool piece of equipment that, if it was the only piece of equipment that you had, and
the rest of your life. I think that actually you need to take that into consideration.
Yeah, for the rest of your life. You wouldn't change it. No, see, I think, and the only takeaway from what I'm about to say is this piece of equipment is way less travelable or mobile. A dumbbell is very mobile. You can take that. Anyway, I went on a trip once. It was a business trip. Prior to, no, I took a kettlebell, actually.
You made a mistake.
But it made my luggage like at least 16 kilos heavy.
Well, was it a 16 kilos?
Was it 16 kilos? Yeah, it was at least 16 kilos plus clothes. And the porter tried to carry it for me. I'm like, it's all right, bro, I got this. And he's, no, sir, let me get it. And his face when he lifted it was entertaining. But yeah, because I was just doing kettlebell stuff in my room. So maybe the kettlebell as another mobile piece of equipment. But I agree with you on all those points for the dumbbell. As in better than a kettlebell in that I feel like the kettlebell restricts you in some senses where the dumbbell is a little more freeing.
I think maybe off the back of this, we had some other questions that we're going to go through that we kind of spoke about with the guys from the gym that were up on our socials that we went through and like us with the. But another topic we've spoken about because from another podcast that we listened to, they touched on this point, right? It fits, I feel like, off the back of this a little bit more, but we've also spoken about.
We have to come back to this. I got another piece of equipment.
Oh, go.
Oh, are we going to move off this?
No, we're going to come back to my thing in a second, but you go first.
Okay. I was going to say cable stack, which is it's less mobile.
Play it out. The rest of your life, go.
It's less mobile, but like when we're talking about the versatility of a particular piece of equipment in regards to directions of pull, there's a lot of versatility in that, as well as variability in weight. And I wasn't sure whether the rules state that it's one piece of equipment, as in choose one dumbbell or say one pair of dumbbells, in which case if you choose the 32s, that's going to be a really tough hammer curl.
Okay. So my spectrum of range of dumbbells.
If I've got a rack of dumbbells, sure, that's where we're in there. We can do, but if I had to choose one piece of equipment, what dumbbell would it be? And then you're almost cheating by choosing the cable stack because that guy, you've got lots of variability but with the cable stack, you also need all the attachments as well because, you've got this grip, that grip, up, down, wide, narrow, palms up, all the variability of those grips, how versatile that piece of equipment is. And that is why you use it a lot with your clients and your training and my training. Anyway, food for thought. There you go.
Yeah, I don't know if I cheated the question.
And then the other thing it's got on it is a pull-up bar. And that integrates vertical pull, which is tricky with the dumbbell. You have to hang yourself up.
You said cable stack.
I did say.
Not cable rig, not the rig of it.
Yeah, but if I think about our cable stack, not the rig of it.
Yeah, I don't know if I've cheated the question. Okay, if I was to think, if I had one piece of equipment and I had a variety of them, it would definitely be a dumbbell.
Yeah.
If I had one
piece of equipment. But if it's one piece without the variety.
But if you have a barbell, can you have weights? Because that's the thing. If I just have the piece of equipment that's a barbell, I'm never going to choose.
We're getting into the nitty gritty.
Clarify your question, CK.
All right, here we're at. Here we are. CK, we need some clarification because you see where we got stuck.
One piece of equipment.
For the rest of them.
I think I've still used dumbbell.
Okay, yeah, me too. Yeah,
it's just. If I never had a heavy dumbbell, I could do like curls, double curls. I could do double tries. I could do everything.
Yeah.
Because curls are the most important exercise
for hip stability. Okay.
So
back.
I think let's just do maybe
back to you.
the thing that we've also spoken about from that, so like piece of equipment, and then we've spoken about like exercises that we would choose.
Oh, yeah.
So working through another question that we had was, if you were only able to choose 3 exercises for the rest of your life.
Oh, wow. Not prepared.
What would they be?
Then why?
And why?
Mm-hmm. Do they have to be like specific to? Yeah, I guess they have to be specific to equipment as well. Then
just 3 exercises. So you can go into a fully stacked out gym, but you're only allowed to do 3 exercises ever. Which 3 exercises do you choose? Do you want me to go?
Yeah, because my brain's gone to animal flow.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Which, there's pros and cons. Yeah.
And again, my lens goes to the recent stuff that I've been working on with the Prescript crew, but from a biomechanical standpoint, I go straight to shoulders, hips, and spine. So that was that's their framework in a PSL1, the lens that I've been working through. And it's a conversation I've actually had a lot with my clients as recent as to why they get exposed to these positions, or why in initiating a lot of their stuff at the start is based moving towards these 3 exercises. So my 3 would be a walking lunge.
Okay.
A pull up.
Mm-hmm.
And a heavy hinge.
Wow. Okay. Did not see that coming, because I was leaning towards, everyone speaks about the squat, the bench, and the dead. Yeah. Talk pulling on the shoulders as opposed to pushing.
So I'm going to get, my reasons for the pull up for expression of upward and downward rotation of my scaps.
Okay.
So from a biomechanical standpoint, that's what my shoulder needs to be able to do. Now I'm not getting into hyperextension, so when my elbow goes behind me, but I'm going to be able to move my shoulder from that passively upwardly rotated position. I'm going to be able to use my lower traps, use my rotator cuff, use my serratus to be able to pull my shoulder blade onto my rib cage, and then it's going to be able to, if I can do that well, then it's going to be able to tee me up to load my lats as much as I can in that position. So I'm going to get a lot of I'm going to get biceps indirectly, I'm going to get integration of shoulder stability, integration of serratus work, integration of lats. So bang for buck, the lens that they teach you to look through is how can you get a primary, secondary, tertiary, as many benefits from one exercise as you can in that position. So if I can do one thing for my shoulders with benefits leading into hypertrophy for lat training, or just lat development in itself to be able to use for heavy hinging, then I'm going to choose the pull-up because it's going to complement that movement as well. So again, I look through the lens of shoulder, hip, and spine. Shoulders is going to be my pull-up. The hips is going to be my walking lunge. So again, if we understand and we did a lecture on this in the community around hip function with its application to squatting mechanics. But when we talk about things that through the lens of how do our hips actually work, and we understand this, if you're watching the video, you'll see me do this kind of gearbox mechanic where when one hip goes in one direction, the other hip goes into the other, right? That's how our sort of hips function. So as one leg goes in front, or as I flex, externally rotate and abduct one leg by opposing, I will be internally rotating, extending, and adducting the other. And so if I understand that's how my hips and pelvis kind of move, I want a movement that is going to express that. So squatting is not going to express that. Squatting is just a neutral pelvis. Pelvis doesn't move. I'm just moving within the hip, right?
Yeah.
If I understand function-wise of the hip, I want one leg going in one direction, one going in the other. Walking lunge gives me that. It gives me, similar to the pull-up, it's going to give me some instability as I go through locomotion, so as I'm moving. And then it also can be versatile in regards to how I want to load it, but if I'm going to do a dual dumbbell or something, it's got a good runway of progression for loadability. So heavy walking lunges, light walking lunges, you can change it's got a sort of loading parameters because of the instability, but I can choose how I want to load that movement. I can back rack it, I can do whatever. I'm just going to say walking lunge is the exercise that I would choose. So those two for me, when I go shoulder and hips, those two are where I go. And then you're talking about spine as recently, like understanding how the muscles of the spine are innervated through position. So like your true back muscles, they aren't trained by you intentionally or voluntarily contracting them. So we've had this conversation so many times when you're trying to teach someone how to hinge, or someone has a hard time they feel their back every time when they hinge. It's like they're probably feeling their back because they've got an unstable pelvis and maybe some unstable shoulders. They don't have glutes that they can load or change the orientation of the glutes, and they don't have a stable shoulder and stable lats or strength enough in the lats to maintain position to keep the spine in position.
Yeah.
So your true back muscles are anti-flexors. So they stop your vertebrae from getting pulled apart into flexion. They don't extend your spine. Your lats are your biggest extender of your spine. So if I want to train my spine, I think shoulder, hip, and spine, I want a movement like a hinge, whether that's a barbell. If I was going to go one movement, it would probably be a barbell RDL and not a deadlift.
Yeah.
Because yes, the deadlift, maybe it's going to be a little bit more loadable, but it's going to start with a concentric over an eccentric. And for me personally, I prefer to have the eccentric. I prefer to resist the force down first and then use the concentric all the way up, because it's going to teach me that I'm in the right position to be able to come back up. Versus for me, I struggle with getting into the position of the deadlift. Like I'm just anatomically, I have to hear and compensate positions. And it's definitely something I want to work on getting back into, but I just haven't for a long time, and I prefer to RDL. But as I lean forward, my vertebrae, like I said, are now trying to resist, particularly with a heavy load in my hands, trying to resist being pulled around my back. So they are anti-flexing against that resistance. So I get to teach my back muscles how to do that at the same time that I get to load and bias my hamstrings and my glutes. So if we're going to think about like in maybe simpler terms, it's like lunge is going to hit my quads. It's still going to hit my hips, right? And I get that up and down translation of my pelvis, right? Whereas on a hinge, I'm going to get that horizontal movement of my pelvis. So I'm going to get my hinge and my squat, and then I'm going to get the shoulders and that from the pull-up. So the only thing like I'm really missing is some sort of pushing. But complementary to, if I think about those things, I'm not going to get primary, secondary, or tertiary benefits from an exercise that would revolve pushing for scats as much as I'm going to get out of
for
like
sure.
that dip would be probably the only other thing that I would choose. As we talked about, like when we get that shoulder into hyperextension, we can use the lats to come out of the dip. But I'm not going to put as much meaningful load on those lats as I would with the pull-up, and then that would not correlate over to helping me as much load my RDL. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So that was a lot, but it's definitely something that I think
that was a lot, but that's cool.
About a lot,
Us having more chats like this in regards to let's talk about coming out of PT school, and you learn what a deadlift looks like, and you learn what a pull-up looks like, and 7 years later, you really learn what a deadlift looks like and why. And yes, I use that time frame because that's relevant to me. But and the other thing that the biomechanical discussions have had me thinking about is animal flow, right? So when you said that, and my brain went to animal flow, and I thought, okay, I know that Ed's going to head down that strength route and like traditional strength training, and it's like, okay, what if we had our body? What if we just had our bodies and no apparatus, no pull-up bar, nothing? Like, what 3 movements would I choose? And so thinking in line with those for those reasons, a front step lunge pattern. So it's a front step, animal flow, lunge pattern. But that also preloads you in a flex shoulder position and a bilateral squat position. So the starting position for a front step is like an overhead squat, but you're facing down on the floor. So the gravity is actually putting load through those shoulders in flexion. It's actually putting load through the anterior chain in a tucked squatting position.
Yeah.
So you're getting that expression of like flexion through the hip and flexion through the knee, and then you're driving up and out of that and landing in that lunge pattern where you're actually opening up and getting into that pelvic rotation we were discussing with the walking lunges. And then number 2 would be a side kick through, which adds in some rotational work through the shoulders as well as essentially the entire torso. So it starts in a beast, which is a very anterior loaded position, lots of core, lots of quads, but then you rotate out of that position into, and you've got to stabilize laterally with some hip loading through using the leg. The shoulder has to be able to rotate from a protracted position into a retracted positions, very like mid trap, lower trap, rhomboid stabilization. And you get somewhat of an active kind of extension through the front of the body as well, through working that point to point. And it's dynamic. So there's all of those potential loading points throughout that rotation that gravity's taking care of. So you can slow it down. You can speed it up and use it for power. You can slow it down and use it for strength, and honing in on any weaknesses, weak spots where it's like, oh, notice that your shoulder just clunks through that position. All right, let's slow it down through that position and be able to challenge that and improve that. And then number 3 would be the crab reach. So that's where we start to get into hip extension. So there's animal flow all being on the floor, there's a lot of flexed hip positions and very few kind of extended hip positions. That's pretty much the only one. So coming into that crab reach, we're actually driving, it's like a glute bridge on steroids, but
like a tabletop.
Yeah, exactly like a tabletop. Yep, single arm tabletop. Yep.
And then up and over.
Yep, that's it. Where you're getting that full hip open, and then there's like extension through the through that lateral chain, etc. So those 3 just as a bit of a comparative to traditional strength.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think it's always just the lens at which you're looking through. But those 3 things all have the same thing in common.
Because like I said, like we both said, that they're very biomechanical reasons that we've chosen those.
But completely
different modalities, and potentially similar reasons, right? And my thought patterns did change as I was listening to you talk, right? So I did change a couple of movements out throughout as you were speaking, but then talk to a new coach. Talk to a new coach who doesn't have as much information on biomechanically. That response is very interesting as well, because I think that there'd be a lot of psychology included in that, as in, well, depends what your favorite movements are. Because someone might choose a burpee and double unders and a rope climb.
For sure.
Because they're fun.
Yeah.
That's valid. I'm going to do that for the rest of my life because my name's Kobe Brown and I love burpees.
Thrusters and double unders and walks.
That's it.
And she's happy.
So happy.
And that is actually the conversation that we have a lot on, which is, and again, good for a new coach to listen to this and be like, you have to coach
the person
on the
day. Yeah.
Every time.
Because every person walks in different.
There's a right answer. There's not
a right answer.
We just had reasons.
Yeah.
For our choices.
We told you all our reasons.
Yeah, that was it. Like, those would be my reasons for doing that, because I'm looking at it through this lens. And then exactly what you said then, which was like, I'm looking at the lens of fun, because I want to do this for the rest of my life, and that's not fun for me. It's like, great. What are your 3 favorite exercises?
What's going to get you in the gym?
What is going to
those 3 things? Yep.
Every single time.
Yeah.
That's great. I want you to do those 3 things.
Yeah.
Always. And I don't care about all the other stuff.
Yeah.
Just do that. And really hone in on focusing on what that individual wants.
Yeah.
And so that both of those are like that concept of, we could sit here and talk about like optimal, for like, longevity and this and that. You know what?
Yeah, because we're going to sit here and go, those 3 choices are rubbish. It's rubbish. Why? Because we're thinking about the injury potential, or like none of the reasons that the person's chosen those 3.
Yeah.
There you go. Next question.
That
was a good question. I'm impressed that you remembered that question.
Right.
Where did that come from? Oh, that's right. I remember. Was it a post?
The only thing I talk I don't know where it was.
Not
I
really
just
thing I'll
thought,
talk
I
about.
was like, yeah. I only thought about that because it popped up because when I used to play a lot of golf when I was a kid, there used to be a 3-club event. And you had to decide like what three clubs
you were going
allow
to
you to
use.
be the most versatile around
Gotcha.
the course. So it's like, if I get in a bunker, great, I'm going to need this club, but I need to hit the ball this far. How can I use a 7-iron to play this shot instead of, it's like, what would I choose to go around with?
Gotcha.
Like a 3-wood, a 7-iron, and like a wedge. And it was like, yeah, go play 18 holes with 3 clubs and like see what you can shoot. And then like that was like, okay, what would everyone choose? Because everyone would have their different reasons. It would be the same framework, but for a different reason that you would pick X club.
You would probably know this, but I saw a post video the other day. It was one of the golf trainers that is in my feed, funnily enough. But he was, I don't know why, because I know about golf.
Because I've seen play golf. I've played golf before.
Yeah, and I don't play golf. I attempt to play golf. But the foot position for each club being different, that blew my mind. I'm like, hang on a minute. Not only you have to choose the club, you've got to know where your feet need to be for each one. Hang on. I have trouble like choosing a foot position for one club, let alone 7 of them. That's crazy. That blew my mind. Yeah, anyway.
All right.
Golf.
Let's go through maybe 1 or 2 of these questions and then we'll wrap it up.
All right.
I'm going to pick this one that we gave to Adam.
Okay.
And I want you to do this. I can go as well. You go first.
Okay.
The one thing that benefited you the most when you first started as a coach?
Okay, so I came into the industry as a mature ager. It's always the people that you're surrounded by. I've been through different phases, as in I did my certs, so Cert 3, Cert 4 and CrossFit level 1s at the local leisure centre. And the people who were very supportive of me doing those things, like that support in general, so the positivity of them, the offer of the space to actually practice the craft and learn the basics and get into the industry, and obviously the offer of lots of opportunity to use the skills that I was learning through classes and gym floor work and access to members and whatnot, all came from people enabling that. And then the next phase of my journey was starting working at the movement and being exposed to, I guess, the movement's philosophy, Cal, Shelby, being the owners and driving a lot of what they wanted in regards to a very organic team that grew, and them being very inviting, once again, supportive and just allowing the progression. So I'm driven. There was no one getting in the way. It was like, let's go, let's do that. So the people, their experience, their support, learning from them, and they're 100% phase 3, teeing up with you, and the learning journey just kicking into 5th gear, 6th gear. I don't know how many gears do you want in this car. Just so
it was like the first gear.
No, a lot.
Like
Yeah, I know, but it's on. Like it's on, and just the commonality, the positivity, and this is fed a lot into TCC and the community as well. What I want to provide to you guys as coaches, and just get around each other and support each other in that. So the one thing is the people, the supportive people in each and every one of my phases. Yeah,
that's it.
Is that yours? Did you just say that's it?
No, but I was thinking that for you being like more the mature age PT coming in, there wasn't like, because I remember Adzy's response was like same thing. It was the people, but it was like mentorship.
I didn't even remember that.
I don't really think that yours is different in regards to that. It wasn't a mentor. It was like the people.
Yeah.
It was just like the accumulation
the enablers.
To give you support.
Yeah.
I don't think that's probably just a slight difference to mine. Was like one thing that most benefited me was same thing, like a very supportive community at range of motion when I started there. And I think about that a little bit like in recent times, because I was a PT I was a gym instructor at Lord's Recreation Centre in Subiaco, and then I finished my Cert 4 and I was going to be a PT there, but I didn't really step into taking clients on. But even just thinking about that. I worked there for a little while, maybe 6 months, 3-4 months before I got my Cert 4. And there wasn't a team. Just people come in, you do your shift. So the gym instructors are behind the desk. Like I'm behind the desk in the gym, greeting people, writing programs. And the PTs are on the floor with their clients. And we don't really mingle. Back in the day, it was like, what I felt was like, there wasn't much mingling. There was like, you go in, I'm on my shift, the previous gym instructor checked out, and the PTs are running around with their clients, and then like, that was it. There was no like sharing, there was no like helping me out when it was my turn to train. My headphones went in, and I was like, cool, I'm going to go and train now, and that's it. Like I didn't really, there wasn't the environment there to create a team.
Yeah.
So kind of what you were saying with like Shelves and Cow. It's like, I think the most thing that most benefited with me was the two things. It was the mentorship, as I've spoken about before, from Dan, but it was the environment at Range of Motion that he had created with the people that were there that allowed me to grow as a coach, try, like, learn, develop, grow, like all in a group of people that were wanting to do the same thing, which was to get better, always get better. And I think probably a lot of that was more so at the start because that was like the rise of CrossFit. So that would have been like 2014, I think, when I did my first Open, or 2013. And that was like coming into peak CrossFit time. And it was like, and what I mean by that is like there was a lot of incentive of how to get better at things. People were like, oh, I want Olympic lifting and powerlifting and running and this and that and gymnastics. And it was just like this huge thing and it was a really good time to come in as a trainer because you're like, cool, there's so many things that I can help people get better with and learn. And having an environment like that where there's so many commonalities in regards to people just wanting to get better.
Yeah.
In a group, not the one-on-one setting in PT straight away. I think that was really beneficial. Like, yes, I did the way that, like we said before, Dan had structured it where it was Range of Motion is one-on-one PTs, but it feels like it's in a group environment because there was so much happening. So I think that's the biggest thing that benefited me when I very first started was like similar to you, was the mentorship that I received under Dan for those like first 5 years, and then the people at that gym. Really were just like, and I'd known Cal and Shells for a little while from competing through Range of Motion with Cal, and then getting to obviously all the coaching side of things and developing that. And there was a ton we've spoken about them. But if I think about when I first started, it was definitely that, because that was 6 or 7 years into my journey and coming down. But I think, the biggest thing is, and then the same thing as you, where you're like, it's the people and I want to be able to give that back. We've spoken about it, and it'll be something that we talk maybe a little bit more on here about getting into some in-person stuff with TCC and looking at doing an event at the end of the year for coaches and even if people want to come in, just members of gyms and stuff to learn, but being able to give back in that sense regarding like the mentorship side. And so even with Odyssey, I have a few coaches that I take on board and do I would say a little like intentional mentorship, but it is like, it's a big part of what I do with that, my business anyway, which is, it's an
education journey. Education Odyssey.
Yeah, pretty much. That's it, right? With a little bit of side training. But if I think back to when I first started, that would be it for me as well. And then like I said, that's really just in those experiences just shape you. And it's like, that's now at the point where I'm in the career where I just want to give that back.
I think that's where like people learn the best is, and I feel like this is coming out a lot now because during COVID, there was a lot of courses created for online courses to do this, do that. But I think the delivery of courses, say it's a static course that's been created, you start and you work your way through. And this is me with propane as well. There was a component of propane that was very much coursework that I was working through. But the big ticket item that really made the difference was being in the forums and circles, asking questions of the other coaches, getting the banter, getting the feedback. They've got some really good people on staff there that kind of would jump on it, come back to you straight away. And all of a sudden you felt like you were part of something. There was other people within the community who would jump in and throw their 2 cents worth in, and now it's a conversation. And that starts to develop really good cementing of ideas and skills and things that you've learnt, concepts that you then are able to apply better because you've seen it in 3 or 4 different contexts based on those people's experiences. So having the mentors who've had the experience and the people in and around you, surrounding you, like that idea of us doing an in-person just excites the hell out of me, because I'm like, come and surround ourselves with a whole bunch of people with different experiences, and now start talking about concepts that we want to share with them in regards to trading and coaching their clients, whatever comes up, and go, all right, how does that go through that person as a filter? That person as a filter. What can they feed back into that event, and that become exciting stuff.
More info to come when we figure out what to do.
We know who we are.
All right, I was going to do one more and then we'll wrap it up. I don't want to do a negative one. What was a negative one?
What is the negative one?
It was one that was about your biggest struggle and that you overcame it. I don't necessarily want to finish the podcast on that. But you overcame it, so it's kind of positive. Well,
I don't have one.
Someone did that and she did
okay, no. Yeah, maybe I don't want to talk about this.
Moving on.
I'll do that one. I got one.
That one?
Yeah, I got one.
Good, because your one can make me think of how you think of my one.
I think
You struggled when you started coaching, and how did you overcome it?
Yeah, politics. So the positive I just spoke about, which was what was like the biggest help when I started, that was the Adam one that we just did. That was also then became almost this negative, because there was a lot of politics in and around that first place that I started operating out of, which was the leisure centre. It's so interesting that I say politics and it's like local government. I don't know. It's just the way that it ran. There was a lot of risk aversion. The decision making was very much in line with avoiding risk, which is fine. That's a completely valid way to run an organisation and a business, but it did hamper my ability to grow beyond a particular point. The positive, the way that it...
How did you overcome it?
How did I overcome it?
I moved.
I left. But this is the thing. I actually don't know, because there's so many advantages for me being in that place. It's literally a stone throw from where I live. It keeps me much closer to family and whatnot, but it led to me meeting Gay, which then led to me meeting Callan Shelbs. So many positives, right? And then like me deciding to, okay, I've got to leave that. And it was hard. That was a really hard decision to make, to go, hey, you know what? I've got to park that, because I really want to grow me and what I'm doing. And I saw an opportunity there with the movement, and that was the next phase. That was the next step. And sometimes people come into your life in phases. There's a particular reason why they're there. And once that reason isn't valid anymore, as it was, you've grown, you've surpassed that place, then maybe it's time for them to move on as well.
CK put something really good in the chat ages ago about that. Like, we asked a question in the community, I think he came back with something like, just because they're not in your life forever, that short window of time that they had an impact or a positive impact, like they still can be looked at in a good manner. It doesn't always have to be a negative of life because they're not there anymore. It's like, I got
so much out of that
time in my life. And
that's exactly right.
For so many other things.
That's exactly right. And I shouldn't get hung up on how tricky it was to try and get what I needed from that, because I was trying. It just didn't work out, and that's okay. So many positive things came out the other side. So thanks. I overcame it.
Good job.
That was mine. What was yours?
My biggest struggle, and how I overcome it. I think I'm still working on it, which is what we spoke about the other week, which is...
Is it rowing?
It's rowing and balls. Those are my biggest struggles. And that's why I don't do them anymore, and I just bodybuild. That's why you
Gold.
My biggest struggles... when I think about when I first started, again, it comes back to where I started at. I'm very fortunate that there was a great... If I think about it from that lens, great environment, none of that like politics stuff, great team. The reason for leaving was personal, which I think is the biggest struggle that I still am working and overcoming, which is work-life balance. And we had a whole podcast on that, so I don't really need to go into that. But it is...
And how did you overcome it?
I haven't. I had 2 children. That was like the wrong idea to have. No, sorry. But it's the constant balance of, that's my biggest.
Maybe the way you overcame it was you gave yourself more reasons to balance towards life
Exactly.
as opposed to work.
Yeah, actually, yeah, that's a really good thing, because having our kids and growing our family, it's like, it does just put everything more into perspective, and how passionate I am about this line of work and what I do. Yeah, you're right. It does put things into perspective where it's, yeah, I could be doing this, or I could be stressing that I'm not working on developing this part of the business or whatever, but I'm home every day with my kids, and I'm not missing out on any part of that in their life. And I was speaking to Adam about that this morning. I'm like, all the ups and downs and the wave that you'll ride with this sort of line of work. And again, you don't get into it for the millions of dollars that you're going to make. You get into it because you need to get into it because you're really passionate about it. If you're gonna stick with it through the challenging times that they have. And if I'm talking about in it as a coach, then I'm in it, and this isn't that's not the life that I'm looking for to have in terms of the material stuff. I just have to constantly remind myself, so I guess I'm overcoming it. It's that constant reminding of all the things I get from this life that I've chosen to do, which is all that time. And yeah, I think you're right. It's the perspective that my family has given me in that work-life balance, that it's life that is the thing that I need to balance towards. You know? And it's that tricky part of supplying everything for that and making sure that there's enough.
You know, what's really tricky is balancing life when you love what you do.
Yeah.
And there's so many proponents out there, got people I follow on Insta and socials that talk about integrating your business is your life.
Yeah.
And it's sure, it can be. My gosh, it can take over 100%. But you know what? There's a way. There's a way to actually lift your head up from the keyboard every now and then and go, there's some kids out there. They're mine. Yeah. They're fun to hang out with. I'm going to go do that for a while. Yeah. Let's go for a walk. Let's go and kick the footy. Let's go and do whatever.
I think that's it. The biggest struggle.
Spend time doing all the fun things.
Yeah. The biggest struggle for me is, if I think about what some people have spoken about when we've asked that question around the specifics of the programming or this and that, and I'm like, I don't want to say I didn't know what I was doing. Like when I moved down to Dunsborough, like I've said before, and I said to Cal, like, people teach me how to program because I don't know what I'm doing, because of the way the setup was at Range of Motion, where we were using an automated system, or automated, but like a programming system that they created. So it's like that part was taken care of. And as we said before, I could focus on the coaching. I didn't have to think about that section, which was good because it really enhanced my ability to coaching cues, and I wasn't spending hours thinking about what's this person going to do, how is this going to progress. So I was very lucky in that sense. And I don't think I was like afraid, but I didn't see it as a struggle that I didn't know what to do. It wasn't like that for me. I think it's always been exactly what you said. The overriding thing is I could just do this all the time. And that's led me into troubles as well. So that's the balancing it. But I could find myself talking about this all day and doing it all day and living in the gym all day, and just because it's like all the things that we've said. It's all the best people that you hang out with.
And you'd be so boring.
Yeah. So boring.
Let's think multi-dimensional. I'm a multi-dimensional human being who hangs out at the gym all the time.
Anyway, that would be like how I'm working on overcoming it, and constantly will keep working on overcoming my biggest struggle as being a coach, which is wanting to do it all the time and then having all the other stuff that I'm doing. And
integrating all the other things. I love that.
But
good job.
This was good.
Hey, this was fun.
Yeah, I
think we've got about 3 minutes before it runs out of storage.
Thanks for listening to another episode of the Coaching Collective podcast. Don't forget to follow us on Instagram and YouTube. Join all the action on the Coaching Collective Discord community by visiting join.thecoachingcollective.eu. See you in there soon, coaches.